Okay, so recently IDW put up a listing for a brand new Timothy Omnibus. Now, if you don't know what Omnibus is, it's basically a big book that contains a bunch of comic books and stuff like that. Now, this listing is pretty interesting, just because it was only put up 2 months ago. However, a few days ago, it just got cancelled. So this Omnibus was actually going to be based on the Timothy the Archie Adventure comics, and I must admit it's pretty interesting just because this one contained a lot of content, and with this one being such a fan favourite among fans, it's really surprising that this one got cancelled. Okay, so with this Omnibus, it was going to collect the Timothy the Adventure miniseries, and this was only a 3-issue miniseries, and these 3 issues were based off the original 5 episodes from the original 87 TV show. But then it was also going to include the Timothy Adventures, issue 1 through 17, which I must admit, that's a pretty decent amount of comics, and you do have quite a bit in there. I mean, I think it's like even with the first 4 issues, they're based off the first 2 episodes of season 2 from the 87 show, so even that, it's still getting a lot of content in it. But with that being said, there was also going to be quite a few little short stories. The one story was going to be called Xenimillion Year to Birth, another one was Night of Montrex, another one was Metamorphosis, another one was a Forgotten Timothy Adventure, another one was Yo Ho Ho and a Bottle of Mischief, and the last one was going to be called Doomsday Hassle in Banshee Castle. So yeah, I must admit, this whole Omnibus seems to be going to have quite a bit of content in this one, and I'm really surprised that they are cancelling this one, just because, again, this is a fan favourite version, to so many people. Now, of course, with everything that's going on in the world, Timothy wise, it's pretty interesting, just because the Timothy are pretty much at their, I want to say their, new peak. It's basically a new movie, basically in every other game, they're in, so many comic books now and stuff like that, new TV shows, new figures, and it's so surprising that they'll cancel something like this when this version is so popular. Now, if you do grow up in the 90s, then of course you'll have some memories with this version, growing up and reading it and stuff like that. And I must admit, even though I didn't really grow up on this version of comics, I think I read 1 or 2 growing up, but I did reread them a few years later and reread the whole thing. I must admit, the series as a whole is pretty decent and pretty good, and I do think that is really great. So again, I had to question a lot of things about this, because it just seems so weird that I cancel something like this when the title's at the new peak. So then of course the next question that comes up is, why did this book get cancelled? Now with this one, it's a little bit hard to say, just because IDW hasn't really come out and said anything yet, and I doubt they will. I think they're going to be one of these companies who will just more or less go on as if nothing's happened and stuff like that, because they didn't really make a big deal about it, that it was even going out in a few months, and this one was going to be released next year, and they haven't really done anything to promote it whatsoever. So I got a feeling that they're probably not going to talk about it whatsoever, and just be one of those things that what could have been and stuff like that. So I do find it interesting that 1, it was cancelled, and 2, being created, and 3, that they're not even going to talk about it whatsoever. But I do believe that there is a main reason for this. Okay, so the main reason for this, which I do believe, is the fact that this comic book series was published by Archie Comics. Now, I know that some people might be a bit confused by this. So the thing with this is that these comics were published by a different publisher and stuff like that. So with the rights and all that, there's a little, I want to say it's a little bit complicated, just because even though Paramount does own Turtles and stuff like that, it does get a little bit weird when they do source it out to other companies and stuff like that to create other versions of Turtles. Next Mutation is a very good example of this. Even though Paramount does own the Ninja Turtles, Hasbro does own the rights to Next Mutation, just because it was created by Hasbro and stuff like that. I think that's the best example I can give. So with the Archie comics, it's a little bit weird, just because 1 is published by a different company, but also a few years ago, IDW was also re-releasing these in trade paperbacks. I do find that really interesting and really weird that, a few years ago they was able to publish them completely fine and stuff like that, and then now they don't have the rights to it, but they was promoting it and stuff like that a few months ago. So I just found the whole thing really weird. So I do wonder if IDW has lost the rights to publish the Archie comics, but also with this, it does, I want to say, a bit more confirmation with this as well. Just because there was also a Star Trek comic book series that was also going to be released, but was also published by a different company and stuff like that. And now IDW doesn't have the rights to publish that version of Star Trek comics or something like that. I'm not too sure about all that sort of stuff, But here's the thing, Star Trek is also like owned by Paramount, so yeah, a lot of things we're just wondering like, what do they actually really own and stuff like that. And then also with this comic book series, it was also really interesting with how IDW re-released these comic books. Just because when they was re-releasing them, they didn't actually release all of them. They skipped over, I think it was like nearly 8, 6, it was something like that. And this whole story out, like basically to the Turtles, I think it was to Iran, I think it was, or Iraq, or it was something like that. And they showed off like religion and stuff like that. But yeah, IDW didn't like publish that one just because I think they were thinking it was like somewhat offensive and stuff like that. So, you know, with this Omnibus, no matter what, like they were never going to release the whole thing whatsoever. So I just think that this whole comic book series was just like doomed from the start. And it's just so weird with what's going on with this whole comic book series. But again, it's somewhat sad just because I know that like, there's going to be a lot of people out there who's going to be disappointed by this. I must admit, as a fan of like Total Comics and Total content, I am a little bit disappointed just because, you know, we're not getting anything new, but at the same time, I'm not like the biggest fan or anything of this version of Turtles, so I'm not like sad about it, but I'm sad enough to the point where I'm making a video about it, but I just find it really weird, just because I know there's going to be a lot of people out there who's going to be disappointed by this. And with this version of Turtles being like a very, I want to say popular and fan favourite one among like so many people, it just seems so weird that they're not going through this one, just because this one, they'll just basically be printing money at this point, because so many people grew up on that version and loved those comics. So I just find the whole thing really weird and stuff like that. But even if they were going to release it, you know, they weren't going to release everything from it. So at that point, I just think, like, what's the point of even having like one book if you're not going to release them all? So I think that this whole book was just going to be a mess whatsoever. Yeah. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below what you think about this news. Do you like it? Do you not? Are you saddened by this news? Or are you happy? I'm not too sure what people are going to think about this. But yeah. But yeah, that's going to be it for today, guys. If you doesn't, please share, like, subscribe and all that stuff. Goodbye, yo. Bye.